You've tuned into Stranger Than Fiction News, broadcasting live from the dark side of the planet. Many people have seen videos like this, and they still talk about flat Earth, flat Moon, flat Venus, flat Mars, bitches. They think about these weather balloon videos where you can clearly see that the Earth is flat from many miles above the surface. And what we're going to find out in this broadcast is that it's all about perspective. It's all about where you are on the globe. And if you're close enough to the surface, it looks flat. In fact, for miles and miles, it looks flat, just like this. But what you're going to see is that based on your perspective, it's going to look round, or it's going to look flat. You can see the curve. You can definitely see the curve. You can see the curve. And now all of a sudden, it starts looking flat. And that's the problem with the ant's perspective. We're basically ants roaming around looking at the world around us. And we think that it's flat. But in fact, it's not flat. Ladies and gentlemen, it's curved. And everybody can see it's curved. I live on the Atlantic coast. I can see the ocean is curved. And when you look at it from a video, which gives you about a 30-degree angle of perspective, it kind of looks flat. But when you start panning around the horizons, you can see it curve up, flatten out, and then start curving back down again. And for all the people that would push this flat Earth theory, it truly is disingenuous, to say the least. And you even get people out there getting super aggressive, saying, oh, you're a shill for saying that the Earth is round. Well, that's what the Bible says. It says that the Earth is round. And some people think that round means like a circle, like a flat circle. But in fact, when you talk about things being round, you usually mean that, they're like a globe, like a basketball, like a baseball. A baseball's round, a basketball's round, and the like. And in this footage here, it's incredible, but you can definitely see the curve. And you just have to be high enough to see it. And this isn't the end of the story. This is just the beginning of what we've got in store for you in this broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. Again, it's all about perspective, and here's really the most damning evidence of them all. If we were on a flat Earth, then everything would just end at the horizon. We would see the vanishing point being at the end of the horizon. But what do we actually see out there is that the vanishing points are above the horizon, because it's actually curving away from you. Now, the curvature at certain points might not be, what it shows up on, Wikipedia. It may not be exactly what they say it is. And that's another angle of the story. What is the curvature? How big is the planet? What are they truly hiding with this flat Earth phenomenon? One thing's for sure, if it's allowed to propagate out there on the internet, it's pretty much disinformation. The truth gets censored, and what's allowed to trickle through the filters is the disinformation. And we've talked about this over the years, about how the flat Earth theory seemed to, come back to life after a movie that came out called Copernicus. And it was talking about the Earth's position in the universe. And it would seem that that the latest discoveries prove that the Earth is actually at the center of the universe, at the center of the light sphere that we can see around us. Now, we're not going to get into the physics of the universe, because at this stage it would just be a little beyond the scope of this broadcast. But one thing's for sure. You know, the vanishing point here is beyond the horizon. And that's something that people should, take into consideration before they start throwing out, conspiracy theories about the shape of the planet. And, there's a lot of reasons why they're pushing the flat Earth so hard, even today. And it's kind of like the Santa Claus. They want people to, build their faith around the shape of the planet. That way, in 2 years, when, quote unquote, space tourism takes off, people will be like sitting there like a bunch of idiots, not knowing what to say or what to do. And that's the problem, and that's why we're addressing this issue. Don't be fooled by the Santa Claus. Don't be fooled by the propaganda on television, ladies and gentlemen. And it's clear that, the Earth is not flat. And people that would get overly excited and aggressive based on the shape of the planet are probably, pushing other untruthful ideas as well. And it usually goes hand in hand with, other conspiracy theories. But we're not going to get into that right now. I think that this evidence here all by itself just blows away any type of, flat Earth conspiracy theory. And you have to remember, either we're the exception or we're the rule in terms of what we're seeing in the universe. And, if the Earth is flat, then the moon must be flat, then the planets must be flat, and then people start, talking about portals, and they start talking about, everything being some sort of projection. We live in the Matrix, ladies and gentlemen, and it just never ends. It just never ends. And so it's important that we do address this issue, that people are on the same page as far as the shape of the planet. Because yesterday we were talking about, what might be going on out there in terms of, the UFOs and the like. And, the biggest response was, what kind of shill shit is this? The Earth is flat. And the UFOs are just some sort of, projection, some sort of illusion. And while some of them might be Project Bluebeam, some of them might be, alien invasion conspiracy theories, it would be rather remarkable if we were the only, intelligence in the universe. And in fact, when you look at the DNA, which is clearly a programming language, it's clearly proof of intelligent design. Obviously, we're not alone in this universe. And the Bible tells us we're not alone in this universe. And yesterday we were talking a little bit about this New World Order, the armies of the dark side, the armies of the devil, the clones that they've put in place to basically control this world. The clones in Hollywood, the clones on TV, the news anchors, the politicians. It's part of the control structure. And, we've got some rather devastating new images of these clones, to say the least. And I think it's important to talk about it. Most people have seen Hugh Jackman out there in movies like X-Men. How many people remember this scene here? And in any case, who was the guy? Who's the guy on the left? Anybody know that guy? Is that Hugh Jackman as well? Anyone? How about now? Does that still look like Hugh Jackman? Ladies and gentlemen? Who is that guy? Anybody know? Well, in any case, it kind of looks like Hugh Jackman might be Clint Eastwood. I know we've got some other images of this, if we can find it. The video guy is always a challenge out there. But, yeah, there you go. Another clone. It's terrible. How long has this been going on, ladies and gentlemen? And, looking at these images, you almost see a hint of Luke Perry and Hugh Jackman. I'd say that Hugh Jackman is a cross between Luke Perry and Clint Eastwood. I mean, that's just, our perspective. Do you see the Luke Perry and Hugh Jackman there? A little bit. You can think about it later, ladies and gentlemen. In any case, we were talking about the nature of the enemy. Again, the underlying theme of everything that you see on television is anti-Christian in nature. They're all out there worshiping the devil. And that tells you, that this is truly the nature of this army of darkness that we're up against. And with that said, and with personal experience at hand, we can tell you that, the demonic truly is spiritual in nature. It's like an amorphous, creature, an amoeba, a cloud, a ghost. And from our perspective, it would seem that these types of creatures move and think at speeds that are far beyond what we consider as normal speed. Again, we're phased into a world with a 24-hour day. Not because man made 24 hours into the day, but because between high noon and high noon is a specific interval. And between, the phases of the moon is a specific interval. And between the seasons of the year, it's a specific interval. And we're basically phased into a world that revolves around the sun, and that everything is based on a time frame or a time scale that just seems normal to us. But what's normal to us isn't necessarily what's normal to other creatures in this universe. 1 second for us might be like a year for them, which gives them an unbelievable advantage in terms of planning, in terms of being able to think ahead, to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and to even whisper thoughts in your head. This is a well-known attribute of the demonic. And you have to think about how can all of this function as it does. And the reason is because a second for us is like a year for them. And so they've got all the time in the world to be right there at the wrong place at the wrong time. And again, these creatures are phased into a world that's, halfway between our world and some other world. We can't fully understand the physics of what's going on just yet. But I think understanding this much of the equation makes it easier for people to understand what else might be happening out there. Again, for more on that, you'll want to check out the archives, yesterday's broadcast, as well as the series, The Dark Matrix. And we try to cover some of that action in those broadcasts. Again, it's a very complicated situation. And, yesterday we talked about, who are these UFOs? What side of the fence are they on? And the like. And, it's pretty obvious that this New World Order is trying to shoot them down. And perhaps the enemy of our enemy is our friend, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people out there are totally convinced that, creatures from another world must be the demonic. And we can tell you that the demonic is not a physical life form, to say the least. And, it wouldn't be flying around in spaceships. The demonic is like a dark, shadowy ghost that basically fuses into, living objects as well as non-living objects. Let's see if we can find something more interesting to look at. But where did this footage of the UFOs go, video guy? The video guy is fired, by the way. And this guy is always sabotaging our broadcasts. But for those that would say that the UFOs are just a projection, we would contest that. For those that would say that UFOs are fallen angels, we're not so sure about that. And while the argument seems pretty standard in terms of labeling these UFOs as demonic creatures, I can tell you that I've seen the demonic creatures more than once. And they don't look like little gray men, and they don't look like UFOs. They look like shadow people. And you see them, for a second, and then they're gone. And the reason that you don't see them all the time is because, it's like a speeding bullet, basically, ladies and gentlemen, and you're lucky to see just a glimpse of it whiz by. You're not going to see the whole thing. You're not going to see the whole trail of movement as it drifts from one place to another, although they can slow down to approximately our speed. But the true nature of the demonic is mostly in the realm of the unknown, and what we do know about it isn't at all thought of as a physical entity. It's not driving a car. It's not cruising around in a spaceship unless they've, basically body snatched the host. And there's a reason why they're called hosts. And there's a reason why we reference our Creator as the Lord of hosts, ladies and gentlemen. And, that's pretty much all we can say. Without the armor, you're like a city without walls. And there's no telling, what kind of creatures are within you. That's why it's important to keep the faith, to stay on the straight and narrow path, and to not open yourself up to demonic possession. Now, we've talked about the dark matrix. We've talked about what happens when people get body snatched and the like. It's not a pretty thing. But there are telltale signs for when this has happened. The shifting in the eyes, as well as the appearance of horns on the forehead, and the like. But as far as the physical command structure of this New World Order pyramid scheme, it employs clones, replicants, and the like, and perhaps even more advanced, objects, if you will, or synthetic life. And there's really no limit to the technology that's actually out there versus what we think is modern technology. The toys that we get to play with are part of the program. They're tier 1 technology, and as they have really very little to do with what's actually out there. Of course, this broadcast may seem like it's a bit much for some of the sheeple out there. You're going to get a lot of people focusing on the very trivial, and most of them won't get beyond, the earth is flat and all aliens are demons. But our perspective is that this is not the case, and that the demonic, their true form isn't physical, and so they wouldn't be cruising around in a car, a plane, or a spaceship, unless they've assumed that that physical appearance through their parasitic function. we'll have to leave it there for this broadcast. We certainly would like to get more into this. Hopefully we've been able to broaden some people's perspective on this. Of course, much of it remains in the unknown. And, if you want to fill in some of the gaps, be sure to check out yesterday's broadcasts and some of the other broadcasts that are titled Dark Matrix. But that is about as much as, we can reveal at this stage. We'll have to leave it there. Until the next time, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this, you are the Resistance.